I've been involved in about 15 of them, most of the whole high-profile ones. Every single case was lost until this past fall, because you really couldn't win. I'll tell you what. First of all, it's kangaroo court. The judge is appointed because he's biased, not because he's objective or dispassionate, but the judge in these cases has to, the legislation has to have a special knowledge of and appreciation of human rights. Don't be confused that that means freedom of speech. Human rights are group rights. The human rights law, the Internet Censorship Law, protects people by virtue of their being members of groups. And those rights are in conflict with individual rights. So you already have a judge who's prejudiced in favor of the complainant. Okay, that's one problem. So it's material that's likely to expose to hatred or contempt. Well, likely, what does that mean? So the Crown has no burden of proof. Likely is entirely subjective. If you're an optimist, you might say, our meeting will likely conclude peacefully today. If you're a pessimist, you'd say, well, likely some bad thing will happen. You wouldn't want to have to be in a court of law where the decision is being based on likely. The Crown does not have to prove that anybody ever was moved in any way by your posting. In fact, we've argued that in some cases, the only evidence that anybody ever saw the posting was the complainant. That's all the people were influenced. So it's not. So they don't have to prove that somebody who had no particular opinion at all read something, let's say, on the American Renaissance website, and suddenly became so inflamed, so angry, and went out and ranting and raving down the street and beat up a person of the colored persuasion. They don't have to prove a thing. Okay, so the hurdle is so low, you hardly even have to lift your feet. But then, likely to expose a privileged minority to hatred or contempt. Well, assuming we knew what hatred was, and I'm not sure we do, but assuming we did. What about contempt? Well, contempt, in my opinion, is really just any negative feeling. So, essentially, these groups are immune to criticism. Homosexuals, very sensitive religious minorities, but not Christians. You can criticize Christians all you like. And certain groups, you can slag Germans and Slavs and Americans and English people. That's fine. You don't want to be like privileged groups. So it was just a non-stop debacle. The Human Rights Commission went after only people on the right side of the spectrum, usually young people, occasionally old people, always poor people, with 1.5 exceptions. One, Ernst Zundel, who did have, he actually was prior to the change in law, but he did have money. The half is a fellow we helped, Mark Lemire, and he didn't have much money, but we were able to raise money for him to launch a defense. Most of the people didn't have a lawyer, couldn't afford a lawyer. Some in despair didn't bother showing up to their hearings and got convicted. And what would happen under that is that they would be hit with a cease and desist order, which is a lifetime ban. They are to cease and desist publishing whatever it was found offensive or anything similar. Once again, imagine that hanging over your head. The clear message is, don't write anything about politics or race or your views on history or religion. You want to talk about butterflies and garter snakes, that's okay. In other words, shut up. That's the overwhelming message. You shut up. So they have that, then they'll be fined. And then here's the kicker. If you violated the cease and desist order, that was the equivalent of violating a court order, and they put you in jail. Well, several people did go to jail, including relatively recently a fellow named Tom Winicki. And he was sentenced to 9 months in jail. See, they take these things seriously. I'm always trying to find out how bad you have to be to get, 18 months in jail or 9 months in jail. Brad Love got 18 months in jail for writing letters. So about the same time as Brad went to jail, there was a shooting in Toronto on a Boxing Day. That's our day after Christmas. It's a big shopping day. and there were two Negro gangs shooting it out downtown in a crowded parking area, in a crowded shopping area. And this lovely young blonde high school girl, Jane Creba, and her sister were just walking along the sidewalk, and bang, 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 bang. 6 people fell down wounded. Jane Creba, who had nothing to do with anything, was shot through the neck and died. Well, the police finally had to take black violence semi-seriously, so they rounded up about 20 suspects. And just by the by, one of the ones picked up with a gun that shot Jane Creba, although he hadn't actually used the gun, somebody else. But anyway, this fellow had just gotten out of jail. He'd been in jail for 1 year for participation in an armed robbery. So here I am trying to equate things. Bradlaugh writes letters about black immigration. He gets 18 months in jail. This black gangster gets one year in jail for armed robbery. I guess thought crimes are worse than... so that's the situation that we found ourselves in. And I went to the defense of, I think, the last count, it was 12 people who couldn't afford a lawyer. And we certainly caused them a lot of grief. We fought every step of the way. We went to appeals. We lost, as you might imagine, we lost every case. And then along came the Fromm American case. And when Mark was charged for being a webmaster and having various offensive things on his website, he decided that there's no point doing the same thing that results in the same failure each time. We've got to go do something different. And he decided he would launch a constitutional challenge against the law. That this law is so egregious that it violates even our nuanced interpretation of freedom of speech. And we fought that out over a 6-year period. And last September the 2nd, we were absolutely amazed. The decision of a man who actually was favorable to the other side. We won on very narrow grounds. The first Section 13 case that was ever won, and he ruled the law unconstitutional. So if I were applauding, it would be something like this. Yeah, we won, but on the narrowest of grounds. We attacked the law on a host of grounds, and at another time I'd like to get into the scientific argument that we used. We undermined the reasons that the Supreme Court upheld a more mild version of this law in 1990. We went after the sociological and psychological arguments about the evil effects of so-called hate propaganda. We also showed that the Human Rights Commission had been embarked on an absolute secret police reign of terror. Their operatives